At work, I had this lady just kind of like start crying in front of me. It was my first time ever meeting her. And I mentioned something about my cat, and then all of a sudden she started talking about her cat and started crying, and I was like, what the fuck? And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I was thinking about my cat. He was like the sweetest thing, and he was fat, and he died in June. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then all of a sudden she starts talking about her dad next. She's like, yeah,
I didn't ask.
Yeah, like she was like, yeah, like loss is so big. And my father, I was never very close to him, and he was an alcoholic. And I'm like, this is so much information so early in the morning. And so
this is literally the moment where I would just go, I didn't ask.
She's like, yeah, I just didn't have a strong connection with him. Like, how am I supposed to, when he's an alcoholic, and I had to cut him out of my life. And now that he's died, I feel this bittersweet feeling because, now he's no longer terrorizing me, but now he's, now it's like, well, I never had that relationship with my father, and we were just not part of his funeral. And I'm like, lady, please, it's 9 a.m. To buy some glasses. Like,
or it's like, lady, this is a McDonald's.
Like, ma'am, this is a Wendy's. But yeah, that's fucking,
anyway,
like, face front like retail work is something else. Literally, that happens to me all the time, where someone like tells me like their life story, and I'm seriously like, in my mind, I didn't ask. But obviously on the outside I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. But it's like,
I'm so sorry, but I didn't ask.
You just become so jaded working retail, man.
Same. I worked retail too.
Yeah, it's just, you literally have no empathy for people anymore because it's just inconveniencing your life at that moment. But it's like, it's hard because, like, you're just, one moment you have someone yelling at you, and the second moment you have someone telling like their whole life story about how their goldfish died. And you're just like getting this emotional whiplash every day. Anyways, none of this matters to the story that we're going to be talking about today. Alrighty, welcome to IMR Talk Podcast. We are your hosts. We got me, Cass, and we got K here. And unfortunately, we do not have DJ Kilroy with us today. Rest in peace. He's not actually dead.
After he killed us, we had to get our revenge, so we killed him.
He'll
probably be back next episode.
I didn't put that in the other recording. I didn't put the gunshot sounds.
Oh.
So, yeah, I ended the last recording with you saying, I'm gonna come. So.
Well, that's a little blooper there. Anyway.
But, yeah, so we're hoping he will be here next time. He is not a part of this one because today we're gonna be talking about Spider-Man No Way Home. Right? That's the movie. Yeah, that's the movie.
Yeah. Can't walk home.
Yeah, he can't walk home. That boy. So, we're going to be talking about that, but we're also going to be talking about another movie that's a little near and dear to our hearts, and that we watched right after this because I really wanted to watch it. We're going to be talking about Venom, and Venom, There Will Be Carnage. So,
yeah.
I think we're actually going to touch upon that topic more because I'm pretty sure everyone and their mother has talked about Spider-Man and how great it is and how fantastic it is.
Typical Marvel. Disney Marvel, that is.
Yes, Disney Marvel. And so we're going to kind of touch upon that topic a little bit too. But anyway, so today we really wanted to bring up a little bit of Spider-Man. Not too much of it because
that's probably been talked to death.
Yeah, at this point, everyone and their mother has like suddenly been saying like, wow, Spider-Man's great. Wow, Andrew Garfield's great. Spoilers, by the way, he's in it. Tobey Maguire. I mean, if you haven't seen the movie by now, I mean, it's kind of on you. But I mean, we're also in a pandemic, so I don't blame you for not going to watch it right now. Because with the Omicron variant, that shit sucks.
Yeah, there's totally not some other ways of watching the movie, particularly online. But I won't mention like those methods.
Not yet. Wait until it comes on to streaming services. I mean, it doesn't matter because
Yeah, streaming services.
Yeah, streaming services. Wink. But I mean,
Anyway,
yeah, the movie is good. I mean, it's fun. It's a fun movie. Plot wise, was it very good? Not really, but I mean, I had a lot of fun watching it. But my movie going experience going to watch this was horrible because the movie theater was really gross. I don't blame them. They don't really have a lot of time in between each movie. So I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to wipe this down here.
man,
And
you
then,
had like a bad experience then.
yeah, I really did. But I had this guy right next to me too throughout the whole fucking movie just recite literally the whole movie. And the whole trailer of the movie apparently just said all the lines because he even said to the girl he was with, I guess he was trying to impress her. She was like, wow, how do you know all the lines of the movie? I thought you'd never seen this before. Like, this is opening day. And he's all like, yeah, baby, I saw the trailer, and apparently the trailer just had the whole movie in it because he literally recited almost everything until I told him to shut the fuck up.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't handle it anymore. I was like, can you please whisper? I'm trying to watch the movie.
Should have punched him. Anyway, no.
I mean, I had to finish...
I shouldn't advocate violence. That's bad on me.
You do it anyways. When we're not recording, you're like, I'll kill you, and every day, every fucking day.
You do that to me too.
Yeah, and it will happen. Just you wait.
I have faith in my speed. Anyway, well, my movie experience wasn't even that bad. I went with a friend. We were on the edge. We were in the middle row as well, and we were like right at the edge, and there was no one sitting next to us, and the seats weren't that bad either. So I had a pretty good experience.
Did you hold hands and kiss?
Yes. No, not really, but we could have.
Did you hold hands and kiss?
No, not really.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear that. Well,
yeah.
anyways.
Yeah, I'd say like when we were watching the movie, of all the times that the audience clapped, it was only 2 times.
My audience clapped like 5 times.
Yeah, no one clapped when they saw like the villain cameos.
Really?
They only clapped when it was Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire showing up, and that's it.
Well, that's because they're smooth brains over there in Florida.
You know, you're right.
But
I won't let you insult me like that.
So, and we love our Florida people, I promise. But
However,
there are certain drugs there that do make y'all smooth brains, I'm just saying. But anyway, but here, in my movie going experience, people did clap like 5 times. They clapped whenever they saw Doc Ock, and obviously Green Goblin, Willem Dafoe. I mean, dude, you can see like the acting chops, like the differences between everyone, like compared to Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina, like completely different level from everyone else. They were acting circles around everyone, and they just barely had like brief moments too, but like the intensity that you feel from them is so different compared to the other villains. But I mean, I love them, and I also find Alfred Molina sexy. I always wondered why I had like this.
Which one's Alfred Molina supposed to be?
Doc Ock.
Oh.
Yeah, and I always had this like.
I don't see it.
I had this weird, I don't know, I had this weird love for Spider-Man 2 for a while, and then I realized I was like, Doc Ock, he was my sexual awakening when I was but a wee lass.
He looks like a dad.
Yeah.
Okay, then never mind. I'm not gonna go with this.
Yeah, we're not gonna touch upon it any longer. This will happen in another point in time, and we'll learn more about myself later. About
speaking
why
of
I'm
smooth
like
brains.
Okay.
Well, I'm just saying. Speaking of smooth brains, the characters were really being dumb here.
Yeah, that is, yes, very, very
This is
dumb.
like a movie where it's all just self-inflicted problems, and it's not even like some third-party force like causing it. It's just like, oh, I didn't call. Whoops.
Yeah, and like obviously they're touching upon the fact that he is still a child. I mean, he probably just barely hit 18 in this movie.
Uh, from the fact that they're like doing the whole college acceptance, he's probably still like he's probably not 18 yet. He's probably still 17.
Yeah.
Usually, they'd be getting that like the middle of their senior year is when they'd be like getting notified about that.
I don't know. I never did the whole college thing, so I have no idea what it's supposed
Yeah,
to be like.
that's essentially where they started learning about that.
Hmm. But I mean, I think they were close to already graduating if they weren't already graduated. I mean, they didn't really say where they were in their life at that point, especially because the movie
If they're
takes
gonna,
place immediately after Far From Home.
true, if they're doing, I mean, if they're already applying for college and looking at their options, which was apparently MIT, they're more than likely in their senior year. Anyway, that's not that much of an important detail to go into much.
Well, I mean, technically, I mean, obviously not like when they applied to college, like, but the age of him is just because, like, obviously his age is a reason why he's so naive still about like certain things, even though obviously he's Spider-Man. He helped save the fucking world.
He's still your friendly neighborhood spider.
Yeah, but that is an issue of itself. Obviously, we love our neighborhood Spider-Man, but another issue on that topic is just the fact that now that we were introduced to all of a sudden the whole grand universe, it's kind of it just kind of feels almost out of place now that we're back in the neighborhood, his hometown, mostly New York.
Yeah,
And so that's why it's like almost like at this point kind of jarring
how so?
cuz like, you know, all of a sudden we came from like Endgame and all that jazz. And even then the movie before this they traveled all over Europe. And then all of
I
a
thought they only
sudden
went to Italy, or I may have just like
no,
misremembered.
they went to England too. I think if I remember correctly. And
That's
then
not part of Europe,
but
EU anymore. Brexit. Anyway.
he also went to the Netherlands because he was wearing I remember him distinctly wearing that Dutch football team shirt cuz
Oh.
he accidentally ended up there. And yeah, with the tulips and everything. So yes. So they even traveled across Europe too. So coming back to New York and then all of a sudden seeing like multi-dimensional stuff happening was kind of like, whoa, this is a lot.
Man, that school in itself is a giant. Cause what school even does like an international trip like this?
A lot of schools actually.
Really?
Yes, it's a very common thing.
Oh well, I never had that. It was always in state,
No,
or
there,
actually, or in country, I should say.
yeah. Well, no, there's quite a few places, more richer areas, I would say. Unfortunately, I didn't, but the town next to me, they're a lot more richer. That's where a lot of the rich kids go.
I was
And
always under the impression that Spider-Man wasn't exactly that rich
no,
to
and
be able
that's
to do
that's
that.
another issue. That's why. Okay, so kind of going back, and I'll explain that like because that's something towards the end of that movie. But I just kind of wanted to bring up a little bit about how, like, in this movie, and I think this is the issue now that we've been introduced to all these characters, it's just kind of hard to feel like there's really any stakes in the movies now, like in any of these Disney Marvel movies. And the reason I bring that up is because, you know, after what happened here and how essentially Tom Holland Peter Parker just fixed everything. It just kind of makes me think like, well, then, you know, I I don't really feel the pressure, or I don't really feel any stakes on this. And that might just be a personal feeling for me. I don't know why I feel that way, but now that it's like, oh, with, you know, Thanos and Endgame, they just went back in time and they just fixed it, you know? They're just like, all right, well, we're bringing everyone back because we went back in time and we're just going to return the stones later. It'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, after that, it's kind of like now with the multidimensional thing, and even with the fact that, like, what Mysterio did, Tom Holland, Peter Parker can just go up to Doctor Strange and be like, hey, can people just forget who I am? And he's like, yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, it probably would have been well, I guess this will be spoilers if you haven't watched this, but
This
you
whole
probably
thing,
would
the
have
whole
watched.
show is a spoiler. It's fine.
Okay, well, this is like the hugest part where people are just being dumb for plot's sake. Why didn't they just have everyone forget what Mysterio said? That would have just been like a simple thing,
Yeah, like
and all the
everyone.
stipulations behind it would have been like this movie wouldn't have happened essentially if they just did that instead of like making everyone forget about Peter Parker as Spider-Man. But like I guess we could chalk it up to like he's just a kid, he doesn't know any better. But Doctor Strange being stupid like that, especially when he later on suggests like, why didn't you call? It's like he makes a dumb choice and then a good choice like within moments of each other. And it's just like whiplash there.
Yeah, but then it's also like a big jump from. So that's a thing too. Like if Doctor Strange, like let's say Peter did call and he's like, I didn't get in and I tried calling and it didn't help. So Doctor Strange is like, okay, yeah, let's change reality and have everyone forget you. Let's do that. Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
Like that's a good alternative. But I mean, that's just nitpicking. Because I mean, like I said, the movie was still fun. I had a good time. I liked seeing Tobey Maguire again. I never watched any of the Amazing Spider-Man movies, and I never really cared to. I do know that Gwen Stacy's head just fucking does that, and that's funny as fuck with how she died. But that's just me being an asshole too. But I also feel like a lot of this could have been a teaching moment for Peter, Tom Holland Peter. And because I thought it was going to go in the direction of, because of the fact that obviously all these villains come into his dimension, I thought this was going to be a teaching moment for him to be like, you know, you have to let fate do what it has to do. Like, you can't turn back time. Like, especially with what happened with Uncle Ben. But then again, you know, they did that in Endgame, so it doesn't fucking matter. They turn back time, they do whatever. And
I'm okay with
there's
them
no
doing that for.
consequences really, except for the fact that Aunt May died, but even then I didn't feel like anything like an emotional connection towards that end, because it was just kind of like, oh, there she go.
I'm okay with them having that special exception of going back in time to fix stuff with the end in the end game, because it's like that one rare time moment when someone actually gets all the Infinity Stones, which they shouldn't be able to in the first place, and actually does what they did with wiping out half of the universe's population. So they just want to rectify that. I'm okay with that because in an unnatural process, they had to use an unnatural solution. So it's okay there. But Spider-Man situation totally did not call for a bending reality like that. Which I mean, it comes back down to the whole him having great power, knowing great responsibility and things like that. Except it comes down to knowing I guess his resources as well. You could also consider his to be his power. He does not understand his resources properly from this.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, now, at the end of the movie...
Even in the previous movie, he still didn't understand Stark technologies and the consequences that they can bring.
Yeah, but now he doesn't have any resources at all at the end of the movie. Now that he
Yeah,
doesn't
he
have
gets
Aunt
to be
May, now that no one remembers him, now he lives in a shitty apartment, and now he's actually our neighborhood Spider-Man. And now,
poor.
yeah, now he's fucking poor like the rest of us.
Woohoo!
Woo! It's like, and I think that's another touch that was missing, because you could definitely see Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. That fool's poor, you know?
Yeah, I mean, looking at Tom Holland's apartment, like at the end, it didn't really seem like he was poor.
I mean, even then, like, the
It's like
apartment...
a normal bedroom apartment. It's not like a studio apartment that's like cramped as all hell.
Mm-hmm. And the apartment that him and Aunt May lived in, even though, like, even in this movie, he was, like, referencing, like, oh, everyone knows me, but I'm still poor. And I'm like, dude, like, you live in this big old apartment with Aunt May. That apartment is super expensive.
Man, this is typical of Disney considering how wealthy of a corporation is, and they're thinking like, this is how poor people live, right?
Yeah, like, it's only a 2-3 bedroom apartment, and with this big open, like, kitchen space and everything. Like, yeah, this is how poor people live, right? And it's like, no, poor people... I literally have my friend's ex-girlfriend. She lived in this tiny, tiny little studio apartment. They called it the Barbie house because of how tiny it was.
Nice.
And, like, this was in downtown Philly. It was, like, small. I didn't see it personally, but that's how she made it sound like, and it did sound very small, because knowing New York and being able to afford shit, and knowing just everything on the East Coast and being able to afford shit, yeah, it wasn't very believable of the fact that Peter Parker was struggling. And it's like, yes, King, I'm glad you're not struggling, but it's also like, that's how we related to you.
Yeah, he's not exactly as relatable as like a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man when you look at like some of the settings in his movies where he's like the focus. It doesn't exactly resonate.
Yeah, and I mean, but all the movies were fun in general. I like the Spider-Man movies way more than any of the other movies, but that's because I like the down-to-earth personality of Spider-Man in general. But when, in regards to his circumstances, it's not very down-to-earth.
You know, it also helps that Spider-Man isn't like the usual snarky superhero that always has to make some one-liner as well.
Yeah, like
I've
Tony
got to think,
Stark.
looking at it, he's probably one of the few that actually doesn't do that very often.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why I feel like that's probably why he's a little bit more of a fresh of breath air compared to everyone else, because literally Tony Stark does that.
That's his entire
Literally Peter
character, yeah.
Quill does that. And sometimes even like Captain America does that too. And though he's
Yeah.
not as much of a sarcastic asshole, he is still a little bit of a sarcastic asshole.
Yeah. It's
Eh,
like that his character doesn't revolve on like just whipping out one-liners or zingers every scene that they're in.
yeah. And I just mostly still have that problem of, the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield Spider-Mans. I really felt like they should have been like, hey, like, you can't change these things that happen to them, because that has big repercussions in our world too. And like, sometimes you have to let these things go.
Which I feel like that's not exactly a lesson that they should be the one teaching, but more something that Doctor Strange, the observer of the multiverse, even though he's technically not the master wizard, he's still an observer.
He
And that's the kind of lesson that he should be teaching, or at least should have told him prior. Or like when he was trying to do the kill switch, it's been telling him that.
This actually could have coincided really well, like right after like Tony Stark died, just so that way it's like, sometimes you have to let you have to move on, let these go, and you
Yeah,
can't change
definitely
fate.
there. Yeah, definitely there, especially since he was the one inheriting Tony Stark's legacy.
Well, now he did it because, I mean, now technically he hasn't, because
Yeah,
no
he
one
kind of screwed
remembers.
it all up. And he pretty much screwed himself over there.
Yeah. And it's just one thing after the other, and I didn't like the change of it being Aunt May saying, like, with great power comes great responsibility, and, like, not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's also like they just kind of took out Uncle Ben in general, when it could have just been like Uncle Ben, it's something that he always said, and so she's just repeating that, and he's like, it's exactly what my Uncle Ben and Aunt May said, with great power comes great responsibility. Could have been like that, but instead they just completely forgot about Uncle Ben. She wasn't even buried next to Uncle Ben. I don't know where she was buried at, but she was by herself, and I'm like, damn, they really just did not give a shit about Uncle Ben in this Disney Marvel franchise. But
Yeah.
like I mentioned, like, they should have been like, you can't change fate type stuff, and it has repercussions of what you do in our worlds, which is why, because of the fact that you try to change stuff in your world, your Aunt May died.
Yeah, it's just feeling like Tom Holland's Peter Parker was not a character that grew within his movies, is how it felt.
Yeah, he still feels like he's still the same character. They didn't really feel like there's really too much development, just like you said right now.
Like,
He's just kind
he
of
should
stuck.
he should have learned. I feel like the second movie, that should have been like his wake up call. Also, like what it really means to have great power, because now he's on his own, and he doesn't have the guidance of like Iron Man to tell him how to use like the technology that's been left behind for him.
Yeah, and pretty much he's just been completely selfish in every movie. Even though he says, like, oh, my friends couldn't get into MIT because of me. In reality, if he fixes the issue with what happens with his friends, then that fixes his own issue in being able to go into MIT as well. And, like,
Yeah.
even from Far From Home, like, he was too, like, impulsive and wanted to already, like, get into his new suits and everything that was left behind to him by Tony. And it's like, with great power comes great responsibility, and I don't understand why it took this long until the third movie for him to learn this, when that was the first thing all the other Peters learned.
Yeah, that statement in itself pretty much embodies like all those iterations of Spider-Man.
Yeah,
With
and
great powder comes great power
great
comes
powder.
great yeah, with great power comes great responsibility. And that in itself, like when I think of Spider-Man, that is what I think of as his character. Someone that actually understands humility, someone that actually knows what they are as a person.
And I think a lot of people on Twitter were saying that, like, oh, this is his origin story. And it's like, wow, he caused a lot of damage before really getting to his actual origin story, I guess, or getting to
Yeah,
his current self. I don't know. It just does
that feels like
not.
a mess.
Yeah, that's a little bit too much. But, I'm glad. I hope he actually learn something this time. I hope they actually do write something that makes him truly understand where he's at now, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, with all that, I guess what was it? I was gonna say something like that kind of origin story is that's probably like the messiest thing I've ever seen. It feels so far off compared to like the Tobey Maguire's origin story. I
Yeah.
never I never watched Amazing Spider-Man either, so but I do remember watching Spider-Man's 1, 2, and 3 with Tobey Maguire, and like I can actually understand like I can actually understand his character.
Yeah.
but
I
when it comes to like,
the
but
great
when it comes to like
powers.
things, yeah, when it comes to like the whole origin story, it all comes down to like the whole. It feels like it got messy just because it's stuck within like this giant universe, which MCU I should say, not MCU universe. Yeah, but yeah, it's I feel like it just got muddied down because it's like this one story and like this grand scheme of things, and because that they had like this grand, huge story, multiple multiverses now as well. It feels like it just gets muddied down and it can't really become its own thing.
Yeah, which is why we're gonna transition over to Venom.
You see how I was trying to lead into that?
Yeah, yeah. I'm so proud of you. But also lead into Spider-Man. What was it? The new animated one that's gonna come out soon.
Oh yeah,
Anyways,
Spider-Verse.
yeah, Spider-Verse. That shit's good. I like that. Why couldn't they do
Yeah,
that?
I like that too. You
Yeah,
know,
that's multiverse done right.
you know. Speaking of Miles Morales, you know how like they were always making like little quips on like the other different Spider-Mans and all their different multiverse, and like how Electro was pretty much referencing Miles Morales with the why isn't there a black Spider-Man?
Yeah, I
I
have.
still feel like that was a missed opportunity how they didn't Tobey Maguire Peter Parker didn't recognize his Jameson looking very very eerily similar to Tom Holland's.
Well, you
Very
know.
that's a missed opportunity.
I think they
I think we could have
purposely
gone.
did that because they didn't want to explain it. But I mean,
I think we could have lived without the whole telling Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, "You're amazing," because that was a moment where I actually,
now you're just
by all
nitpicking. No,
means,
let's
groaned.
transition to Venom. We're nitpicking
Okay,
now because
okay, but okay, fine.
we're just nitpicking at this point because I mean, that was annoying. I will not blame you for that, but at that point we're just being bitter.
I am bitter.
We're just being bitter. Well, in this next sequence,
We're gonna be happy with Venom.
yeah, Venom's good. I liked Venom. It's a very simple story, and what's good about it is, it's obviously the Sony's little universe, Marvel universe. It's definitely separate from the Disney Marvel. It's not MCU, but technically now they're kind of intertwined because
Yeah,
of Spider-Man No Way Home, and especially if you saw the ending credits to There Will Be Carnage, then you will. Yeah, everything's just kind of coming together.
everything ties into it.
Yeah, but what's nice about Venom is that, I mean, I just like the whole movie in general. It's a very simple story. Obviously, just a simple origin story of how he came to be or how Venom came to be, essentially. And
As your friendly symbiote spider.
yeah, as your friendly symbiote spider, just hanging out in San Francisco, which was an interesting take instead of being in New York, which they did mention about the Daily Bugle, and they do
Yeah.
reference it a lot. The Daily Bugle, you'll see it like in certain screenshots and everything. But it's a simple origin story of how like he's kind of like an anti-hero type character. I wish they did go with the R rating because then it would have been really fucking badass.
Yeah, with the gore. I'm not good with gore, so I would not be able to handle it very well.
Yeah, pussy.
So,
But I just personally enjoyed it a lot, and you can actually see a little bit more of an organic type of relationship and seeing them grow, especially from transitioning from the first movie to the second movie. But in general, it was still kind of a little sloppy in the pacing a bit. Like it was more of, because like it's kind of strange whenever Venom just suddenly is like, oh, I like humans now. I changed my mind because of you, Eddie. And it was just like kind of like really random. But he's a symbiote, and they work really well together, and he's also able to survive off of Eddie. So obviously
Yeah.
he would want to be in Eddie's best interests.
Yeah, essentially they both influence each other.
Mm-hmm. But then Venom actually starts developing his own personality, which you start seeing a lot more in There Will Be Carnage.
Yeah.
Which is also, I enjoyed that movie a lot, even though we didn't really see a lot of Venom and Eddie together. It was still really enjoyable just to kind of see both of them grow on their own. Eddie, not so much. This was mostly definitely, obviously, Venom is in the title, but this was a Venom-centric movie of his own development and his own independence, and then both of them realizing that, as a symbiote type, symbiosis, they need each other, and they grow together.
I feel like it's fine that Eddie doesn't exactly grow since he technically is a grown man. He kind of had his character development done in like the first movie.
Yeah.
But so I mean it's fine for like the second movie to be more about Venom since by all means he's technically a baby in like the whole being on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with also finding a host that he can actually live off of properly too.
Yeah, because then his brain develops a lot more, and he's more of a developed person, I would say, in general. Like, technically, obviously he's not a person, he's an alien, but he gets to actually
A
develop
more
himself.
developed character.
Yeah, he gets to develop himself as a character, and obviously he gains strength from Eddie, and he's actually able to have real serious thoughts, but
Yeah, he's not all food, food, food.
except
He does actually want to help out too. It's kind of funny as
yeah,
well.
it's really cute. He's like, Eddie, look, like, I love in the second movie that Venom just progresses the plot for him. He's like, hold on, I'm doing your fucking job, and he's like, Venom's doing his own type of
He's even trying to be Eddie's
investigation.
wingman too.
Yeah, he's trying to do his own little investigation of being like, oh, see, look, this is the location. Are you fucking stupid? Maybe you should pay attention to your surroundings, Eddie. And then obviously him trying to get Eddie and Annie back together. It's still pretty funny, but
Yeah, he's a good wingman.
But I do like that they like Dr. Dan. They obviously
Yeah.
Venom actually starts liking Dr. Dan a bit.
Yeah, he's like, you're all right.
It's like, you all right, white boy, you all right. But I mean, so first Venom, good. I mean, simple story, kind of messy, but I mean, it's a tentacle monster pretty much type deal, so obviously a little messy. And
Yeah.
the second one, Woody Harrelson's in it. Also messy. Interesting. A few plot holes here and there, but I liked it. What are your thoughts a little bit, I guess, more on it?
I just think how it's funny with the post-end credits, how the very moment that Venom decides to open up to Eddie, like, a little bit about himself with the whole hive mind and knowledge is, like, the very poor timing of him just, like, slipping into, like, Tom Holland's universe.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cute. And very kind of I wouldn't say, would it be a romantic relation? Because it feels like their relation is, Eddie's relation with Venom is a lot better than Annie, probably, and I think it probably will be a better relation than Annie than it ever could be.
No, I mean, Tom Hardy even said, like, especially about the second movie, that it is a love story. And one of the comics of Venom actually starts off with, this is a love story. So, yes, it's joked a lot, but it really is seen out of, like, a romantic view.
It definitely felt like it, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm, especially with all the jokes of, like, the couple counseling.
Wait, did they have, like, did Venom, like, possess Anne and kiss Eddie in the second movie, or was that only just the first movie? I forgot.
We just watched the second movie.
Yeah,
No,
well, I'm not
no,
gonna
no,
picture. Okay, I
no.
was just curious, like if they did that scene, because I remember that it was about to happen, but I don't remember if they actually did that.
No, I think now they're kind of respecting Annie's. Is it Anne or Annie? I forgot. She's okay. Uh, they're kind of
Her.
yeah, her. They're respecting her boundaries a little bit more in regards to the fact that like she's trying to move on, and Eddie is still kind of stuck in his place,
Yeah.
but. And I think it's more like Eddie has also started learning too. And they didn't try to push any more of the fact like them getting back together or anything, because now Venom's like, oh well, I like Dr. Dan, and obviously they don't want to hurt Annie anymore because of what happened at towards the end of the movie where she gets kidnapped, and so they decide to like run away together,
Yeah.
like elope
It's like a
on their
little romantic
honeymoon.
getaway.
Yeah, in Cancun. It's romantic. It's very sweet.
Yeah. That's the good thing of I guess that's one of the good things with Venom. It's not bogged down by a huge overarching storyline. It gets to be its own thing.
Mm-hmm. And I mean,
Which we kind of see that in the second movie and how Tom Hardy wrote part of the movie.
yeah, in the second movie, because how much Tom Hardy really just loves the character, you can really feel it in the movie.
It's definitely a labor of love.
Yeah, you can really feel it in the second movie. And fuck what the critics say. I still enjoyed it, and it was very fun, and it just felt a lot more organic and natural, and not just
It wasn't filled with like some snarky one-liners at every moment, even like during some serious moments.
it didn't feel formulaic like a bunch of MCU Disney movies.
Yeah.
It was like, this
It
fucking
was its
weird
own
shit.
thing.
Yeah, this fucking weird shit. I like it. Let's keep doing it. But I'm wondering, because now they are adding, now because of the fact of all the changes that happened in Spider-Man No Way Home, I know Sony is like pretty dead set on wanting to make their Sinister Six movie. So I'm wondering if they're gonna actually bring back Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man and try to do that, because now they have Venom. I mean, Morbius technically is not part of the Sinister Six, but they are bringing in Kraven the Hunter. I know you probably have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about, because I know
I don't.
yeah. So now they have they're making a Kraven the Hunter movie, which I was not aware of until recently. Then obviously Doc Ock is brought back to life essentially. Though I don't know if they're gonna still use him.
The same Doc Ock?
Yeah, because technically that's Tobey Maguire's universe, but I don't
Yeah.
know. There's all these talks of
They should make Tobey Maguire play as Doc Ock. Just to really mess with the other one.
yeah.
Everyone.
Well, now that it's just a whole clusterfuck of stuff now that No Way Home like changed all these changed the fates of all these villains.
Yeah.
And quotation marks fix them. Quotation marks.
Yeah. Fix.
Yeah, fix them. But it's just going to be really interesting to see, because now they are going to start piling on all this bullshit on top of Venom, and just in general, because now they're going to probably branch off and make their own Sony Universe type.
It's kind of funny thinking about Sony just because of like how you see on their video game side, and then here on the media side, or the entertainment media side with films, it's completely opposite.
Well, I mean, it depends on which film, actually. Because I know, like, with video games, they're really strict.
Yeah.
They're very strict on what they want. And then with certain movies, it really does depend
Ironically
on the movie.
more strict than Nintendo.
Yeah. But, I mean, it also depends on the certain movies, too. Because with Venom, I mean, what's it called? Deadpool, actually. that took years of Ryan Reynolds to convince them. And then with Venom, they really weren't expecting the first movie to turn out that well.
Yeah.
And, I mean, they really made their money back on that movie. Because it was like, I believe it was like $100 million on the budget, which, I mean, it's nothing to sneeze at. But movie-wise, I mean, it really wasn't that much. But then they made like 800 million, like, box office.
Yeah, and profit. Yeah.
So, I mean, they definitely made their money back, and probably with the marketing too, because they barely marketed it at all.
Yeah, I do remember seeing like a movie trailer for Venom, but I kind of like tossed it aside at the time being.
Yeah, you didn't watch it till recently.
Yeah, what of it?
Yeah, and not until I convinced you, because I was like, it's a good movie. But it's, yeah, so they weren't expecting that. And, you know, and especially with the response from fans just being like, oh, we love Tom Hardy, we love his depiction, we love like what he's done, and then like just some of the crazy stuff that he did on set that stayed in the movie, they're like, well, I guess we could have a little bit more of a creative control, or he could have a little bit more creative control, and you can see that a lot. But then again, Sony has made a lot of mistakes in the past, like with Spider-Man 3, where they were trying to be very strict on what they wanted, and obviously it did not turn out well.
Yeah.
I mean, it still was a commercial success, but it still did not turn out well, and it made Sam Raimi, like, quit directing superhero movies until now with Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness coming up. Which I am actually looking forward to seeing, just because it'll be nice to finally see an MCU movie that isn't bogged down by like these gray tones. It'll actually be like a little bit more dynamic, because Sam Raimi loves his camera angles. He loves that shit.
Good cinematography then.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he loves that stuff.
When's that movie supposed to come out?
Like next year? Like,
that doesn't really tell me much.
I don't know exactly the top of my head, but
it's like in 2 days it's gonna be next year. From when we're recording.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's like June, May.
Oh, so that's like right around the time for the anime Spider-Man movie in Spider-Verse or something like that.
No, Spider-Verse, I thought that was coming out like in the holidays.
I thought it was sometime in the summer, like June or July.
Across the Spider-Verse doesn't come out. They said October 7th.
Oh.
And then Multiverse of Madness comes out, May 6th.
Okay. Okay then.
Oh, he's having Danny Elfman make the music too? I didn't know that. Danny Elfman did the music for Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies too.
Oh. Elfman. What a funny name.
Danny Elfman.
Yeah, it sounds funny.
I think he's the lead singer of Oingo Boingo. But that doesn't matter.
Anyway.
But movie.
We're getting off topic.
Yeah. I mean, you can really just feel the labor of love. I have a deep, like, such a soft spot for Venom, and just how fun it is.
Yeah, that was kind of the thing that the movie portrayed Venom completely different from like how I always thought Venom was supposed to be. Especially like from the third Spider-Man movie, I always thought he was going to be like this negative influence that was gonna bring ruin to like whoever he bonds with, but it doesn't even come out to be like that at all with these movies.
Well, the reason why
I mean, they still kind of ruin with the people around Eddie, but like they have a positive relation.
Well, the reason why with Sam Raimi Spider-Man 3, the reason why Eddie's like that is because of the fact that Sam Raimi is actually a very big fan of the Spider-Man franchise in general. Like, he loves Spider-Man. And a lot of his characters, that's why like a lot of his characterizations and everything, they're so like deep and have like, you know, they're multi-dimensional characters, not just like a one note type, because he puts a lot of thought and effort into thinking of each individual character. But with he was only very familiar with like 70s, like 60s, 70s, and 80s Spider-Man. And all he knew about Venom and Eddie Brock was when he was first introduced, where he's just like this, you know, this thing that just causes ruin, like what you just said. And he's just like I'd mentioned, like this one note character. And so that's all he knew. He didn't realize that Venom later on actually developed into an actual character. And he didn't read those comics, which is like more towards like the 90s. And so he was only familiar with what first came out. And so he didn't really want to put Venom in the movie. That was a decision made by Sony. And so that's why that negative view of Venom, that's why you have that view of Venom, because of the fact that he wasn't familiar with it. And so Venom actually turns out to be a much richer character than what was originally expected.
Yeah, it threw me off how like he kind of seems a lot more goofy than what I was expecting.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just it's much more richer. And like you had mentioned before, it's because mostly Venom is like a little bit of a mind of a child.
Yeah.
Just barely developing, finally has a good body, a host.
Yeah, essentially sharing the same mind as Eddie, so
Kind of childish.
that's
Yeah.
part of the whole symbiosis relation is that they're influencing each other, and Eddie being influenced by Venom's hunger, and I guess Venom being influenced by like Eddie's inner thoughts.
Yeah, because he's very much, the symbiotes very much thrive off of emotion. And he knows that with Annie, like, he feels strong emotional connection towards her. And so that's why he wants them to get together. I mean, this is from comics. So maybe not completely shown in the movie per se, but this would explain kind of why he's.
I mean, I could feel I saw that in the movie.
They thrive off of like emotions, and like they love that stuff. That's why they get really bored. Venom gets really bored whenever like they're not doing anything or they're just chilling.
Yes, I mean, you kind of see how much Venom really like Annie, just in the fact in the first movie how he actually actively tries to protect her as well. I mean, he has no obligation to do that, but because he's influenced by Eddie's inner thoughts, I guess it just like becomes part of his instinct, whether he knows it or not, as up to anyone's guess. But
well, I mean, sometimes like they could be a good host, but like they're not of like the same mind. You see that with Carnage.
Yeah, that definitely did happen.
Because I mean, you know, Woody Harrelson's character, I forgot his name, and I don't care to remember. I think it was like Cletus, and that's so sad.
Yeah, Cletus.
Yeah, Cletus. Cletus.
That's such a sad name.
Yeah. How Cletus and Carnage were not of the same mind together. And I mean, obviously they stated that in the second movie as well. But they're just, you can see like how that relationship works out, and obviously they're just like, they're reflections of each other, of what it could have been.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could also say that it does seem in character how Carnage can't only forms like a good physical relation with Cletus, but can't actually like be of the same mind just because Cletus himself is a psychopath.
Yeah, but at least Cletus, you know, he feels love.
Yeah, feels love for her name's Screamer or something?
Shriek.
Oh, Shriek. But yeah, it's like his origin story and how people he's trying to make people feel bad for him. It's like, I pushed my grandma down the stairs once. Or like and then the second part is like I think he was trying to like threw in the electric hair dryer on his mom was he was showering or bathing or something like that.
And then my dad beat me so hard afterwards, I never understood why. And it's like,
and I'm just like, you were a little shit of a child, man.
It's like, well, you killed your grandmother and you killed your mother. I think I don't have any pity towards you, buddy.
Honestly, I'm surprised the father stood back that much. It's like after the first infraction there or whatever he did, it would have been like, all right, there's something wrong with you.
I also think it's funny, just him being like, Eddie, all I wanted was to be your friend. And then Venom's like, fuck this guy, and just eats his head.
Yeah, he keeps trying to talk how they're so very similar to each other, and just like I'm not seeing it. He is way out there, but I guess that in itself is like
it's just like in
the
Cowboy
good writing.
Bebop.
I guess that in itself is like the good character writing in it, and that I completely believe that this guy is really off his rocker and is completely insane.
No, it's just like in Cowboy Bebop, how they're like, what was his name? The dude, the blonde-haired dude that rode on the horse?
I don't know.
He kept
I know
changing
who
his
you're
name.
talking about. I know who you're talking about, but I don't remember his name. I remember it's like he's the person that just like downloads a new personality every time he watches a different film, right?
Pretty much, but
essentially.
Yeah, and they're all like, "Oh, Spike, he's just like you, hot-headed," and I'm like, "What the fuck? No?
This is not him. No. What? Are we watching the same thing?
Did we watch the same anime? Hello?" That's how I felt about
Yeah, I can see that with that
Cletus.
episode. Like,
I was gonna
he's not the
shoehorn
same?
in Cowboy Bebop. I was gonna
Why?
shoehorn it in.
Okay, but why?
Why not? I mean, obviously, it fit what I was trying to talk about.
I guess.
Because I mean, like, it's like Cletus trying to be like, yeah, you and me, Eddie, we're the same. And it's like, no, we're not. I don't fucking want to kill
You're a
people.
murderer.
You kill people. I do love him trying to, like, get pity or, like, sympathy pretty much out of Eddie, being like, Eddie, how do you feel that you're about to kill a man? And he's like, well, I thought I'd take a few pointers from you. I do like Woody Harrelson's character a lot in it. I think it's really funny that they got him for that movie. And it's also very funny as well that Woody Harrelson's father was executed, I believe, by the state. Because he used to be a mafia hitman.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I wonder if he's channeling his inner father right now. None of that has anything to do with the movie, but I just thought I'd mention that fun little fact.
Gaslighting himself into thinking he was a good guy.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, probably. You know, when you're a mafia hitman, you know, you're thinking of the family, but
the gabagoo.
But, you know, shit like that happens. Anyways.
Yeah.
But I think at this point we're rambling a lot.
Yes, we are.
And
we tend to do that a lot.
Yeah, but it's clearly we have a lot of love for the Venom movies, and I really do hope that they continue with this type of labor of love, especially because obviously they're wanting to do a third movie, and I have a feeling this is going to be a little bit more of Venom showing like a little bit more of his heroic side. Or it might even coincide with what's happening in Morbius, which I don't really care about. So, but I mean, I'll be happy to see Venom. I'll be thrilled.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious to see what's going to happen, especially with Sony wanting to do their Sinister Six, which Venom is a part of. So, and especially since they're coming out with Kraven the Hunter. I'm really curious to see what they do with this character and how this is going to go forward from now on. Especially now that Sony and MCU is just essentially meshed together now and essentially have almost become canon.
Yeah. All because Venom decided to spread a little bit of his knowledge to Eddie at the wrong time.
Yeah, but thankfully, MCU Disney is not gonna have the same Eddie.
Yeah.
I'm
That's for sure.
let me have my little gay monsters here in Sony. Like they'll do that justice because I don't have any faith in what MCU Disney would do to Venom. If they took Eddie, like Tom Hardy Eddie Brock. Thankfully, it doesn't seem like that's gonna be the case.
Yeah.
And they're gonna just make their own Venom.
Yeah, the Venom's gonna be like that bartender that was servicing Eddie at the end of the I keep forgetting. I don't know why I keep thinking Can't Walk Home because my friend keeps saying that.
Cancun?
No, the bartender that served Eddie.
Oh.
In the post-credit scene.
I don't know his name.
That Spider-Man movie. Yeah, he'll be the new he'll be the new Venom.
He'll be the new Venom. His name is Eduardo.
Yeah.
But
they're really going for that multicultural type of view appeal.
They sure do love it. I mean, that's what they did with Encanto, which, I mean, it was a fun movie, but, I mean, you could literally put the characters or, like, you could essentially have the characters in any type of setting, and it would still be the same story. Like, it wouldn't matter. Like, if they were Hispanic
I never watched
or not. That. I just watched it yesterday. I cried my eyes out. But
pussy.
Yeah, you know what? I have emotions.
I don't.
I don't know about that. It's more it was just really it's still a good movie. I still liked it in general. But I can definitely tell some of the songs that Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote. But we're not going to really talk about Encanto.
Yeah, this is rambling now.
No, Encanto's good. Watch
rambling.
It. Watch it. Watch it if you want to see your Hispanics like me. I Hispanic.
I'm not Hispanic.
I know you're not.
Yeah.
Alright, but I guess we'll sign off here.
Let's be yourself.
You just be yourself. Be who you are. Be like Venom. Actually, don't be like Venom. Don't eat people's faces.
Don't.
But
eat chicken.
Yeah, have your Sonny and Cher. Understand the morality of, having a pet chicken and then eating actual chickens. Understand the balance.
Yeah. Can't eat them. They're family.
Yeah. But this is where we end here, folks. You can definitely follow us over on our Twitter at InMediasResTalk. And that's at InMediasResTalk. Kay doesn't have a Twitter. I do. You can find me at KittyCassArt. And that's KittyCass, not a T, but an S, art. And then we also have our Patreon, patreon.com/IRMTalkPodcast. And then if you want, you can actually email us too, if y'all have any ideas of like what we could talk about, watch, stuff like that.
We're going to talk about what I want to talk about next.
What do you want to talk about next?
Just upcoming anime.
Yeah.
And Netflix's effect on them.
Yeah, well, actually, our next episode's actually going to be talking about Netflix anime and what's upcoming and the effect of anime now being broadcast onto Netflix and how that's going to change the animation industry. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. Yeah.
You'll love it if you're a weeb like me.
Yeah, but if y'all have any ideas that we could do, it's going to be our email at inmediasrestalk@gmail.com. Email us. You can even just say hi. That's perfectly fine. Patreon, we got that too. Patreon.com/IRM Talk Podcast, and then our Twitter once again at In Medias Res Talk. Thank y'all so much for listening. We appreciate y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.